What did Whitney Houston say to Howard the Duck when she caught him selling drugs? Quack is whack. Oddities and Rarities are going to be the theme of our comic book editions video today. Also included will be a comic book. Had I made a top 12 goal list, definitely would have been on it. It's a nice key, and it's something I've been chasing for a while, at least in my mind, and I finally was able to find one at the right price that hit my budget, and I was able to add this into the collection, and I'll be excited to share that with you later on in this Comic Book Editions Volume 194 video. But first, welcome. If you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed yet, that would be an awesome way to show support. Sharing this channel or this video with someone that you know is another great way to show support. The algorithm loves it on YouTube when you give the video a thumbs up, a heart, or a like. And I love reading your comments, so at the end of the video I'll be asking if there's anything that I showed today that you have in your personal collection, or what you thought of what I showed today, or if there's anything that you're chasing. We can dialogue about all of that and more. But for now, let's get started. Here's something that I just don't think you see all the time, or at least I don't see all the time. This was a very early DC promotional release. It's just 4 pages long. It's not in color. This came out in 1986, and their main cover story is promoting the Wonder Woman reboot. So it would be for Volume 2 that George Perez took over. On the back is kind of a one-page feature on the character, The Question. In between, you'll see all the different comic books that were for sale or about to be for sale, cover dated of February of 87. So these would be books that would have been on the shelf or available in October/very early November of 86, cover dated February of 87. I'm talking stuff like Justice League of America number 259, Action Comics number 585. I think that was the one with Superman teaming up with Phantom Stranger. Tales of the Teen Titans 74, just some of the books that are solicited. They have like very mini paragraphs, like 3 or 4 line descriptions about the books that will be available. I don't even remember this when it originally came out, but around that time I was kind of getting into the final year before I took a break from comic books, so maybe that explains why. But when I saw this, I wanted to pull the trigger because I thought it was a nice piece of memorabilia to add into my Wonder Woman collection, and like I said, something that you don't see all the time. But I didn't stop there. So in 1995, they had kind of rechanged the format. It's the same basic principle to promote upcoming DC releases. They had started calling this Direct Currents. And I believe it lasted 96 issues, and then they did 2 specials as well. This is issue number 90, and the spotlight on here is to promote John Byrne's run on Wonder Woman, which began in Wonder Woman Volume 2, issue 101. There's also features on here on Harley Quinn, Nightwing, and Lobo. Now, these are longer, maybe about 8 pages or so. What I noticed the most about these, they seem more like a collection of in-house ads versus what I showed you in the previous one for 1986, which were like little mini paragraph descriptions of what's about to come out. Yeah, these are full color. They have a little bit more artwork in them as well. And something else that I thought too, because I definitely was not collecting currents at the time that this came out, and I just thought for my Wonder Woman collection it would be nice to add this in. Not an expensive book by any means. And while I was looking through these, I thought, let's try to get more that have Wonder Woman in there. And on the cover for this one, which is actually Direct Currents number 76, which was published a year earlier than the last one I showed, so this would be 1994. I see the cover for Wonder Woman Volume 2, number 88, the Brian Bolland cover. And I thought, well, yeah, let's just get it. There's really no major Wonder Woman feature in here, but Wonder Woman shown on a preview for some upcoming different covers within the inside of this. And that's just why I decided to add it strictly on there for the little tiny Brian Bolland Wonder Woman thumbnail for the cover of issue number 88. Now, as we move on, do you remember Fred Hembeck? Did you know he had his own fanzine? It was called Hembeck, and it lasted 7 issues. This is issue 7, the final issue. It was published in 1983. It's all black and white on the inside, and we have a mix of different comedic items related to superheroes, both Marvel and DC from the inside. The back cover has a little bit of mix of both characters, which I ended up using on my thumbnail for this YouTube video. I just wanted to pick up one of these for the funsies of it, literally. Fred Hembeck always had this very cartoonish style, and they would publish like little mini strips in some of the DC. They called it the Daily Planet, which was their preview of stuff that was coming out back in the Bronze Age when they published those. He always had his little strip, but he did work for Marvel as well too. He did a lot of work for both companies, all in the same artistic style of his, and it just brings back memories to me. I'm not saying I'm going to end up picking up the entire run, but I definitely was interested to have one of these into my collection. I wasn't particularly picky on what type of copy or what specific issue that I ended up getting. So this one is definitely, a spoof here because we have Fred Hembeck on the phone and he's saying, hey, I know you're my publisher, but I refuse to do anything as tacky as putting the X-Men on the cover of my new book just to sell a lot of copies. I have some integrity after all. So instead he puts on the Teen Titans, which was DC's best-selling title at the time. So for the funsies of it, like I said, that's why I ended up picking this one up. This next one is something that I was aware of, and I just kind of stumbled upon it online when I was ordering already, and I thought, well, let's just add this into the cart. It's not going to cost me any extra shipping to get this into the cart. From 1984, this is Golden Age magazine, and this is issue number 8. I think this was done by the same company that did the Comic Features magazine. This ended up being the last issue of Golden Age, but they morphed the title the following month. I think it was called Comics in the Golden Ages, how they kind of rebooted the entire title and started it over. This one has a big focus on the Justice Society of America and gives like little mini paragraph descriptions of all the Golden Age JSA issues. We also have some Prince Namor, the Submariner Golden Age, covered in this issue. Sheena, the Jungle Queen, is covered in here as well. This is something where I don't have any other issue from this title. I'm probably not going to look to collect the remainder of those, but because of the big Wonder Woman front and center on the front, I thought that fell into focus for my collecting goals and a little bit of an impulse buy, but one that I ended up being happy with. And when I'm talking about impulse buys, this is a book you might be familiar with. I see a lot of people come home with these from different conventions. And I was definitely aware of this. This is the Marvel No Prize book. It's issue number 1. It actually ended up becoming just a one-shot. It's the only time they ever did this. This was from 1983. We have a Michael Golden cover of Stan Lee / Dr. Doom. And I love the fact that it's kind of drawn upside down as well. So if you're not familiar with this, it takes different collections from different Marvel comic books that were published, panels where they had mistakes in them, and they just own up to their mistakes. Like in one panel, there's a character that has 3 arms. The artist accidentally drew an extra arm on there, and it never got caught. It got published. Stuff like that. There's an X-Men panel that's reproduced where Professor X is warning, not to give out your real name in front of the public, and ends up saying the character's real name outside in the public. It's all from different eras, from when Marvel started publishing, in the Silver Age in the early 1960s to, stuff into the early 80s as well. It's just a collection of them. It was just fun to look at. And these aren't very expensive books at all, but it's just for the novelty of this. Marvel, I think, didn't always take themselves as seriously. They like to have fun, I think, more opposed to DC. They just wanted to have fun, and this book definitely shows that out. At least that's my opinion. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this. I'm actually surprised they didn't end up doing a volume 2 to this. Maybe they just stopped making mistakes after they owned up to it. So, and there's even a part in here where they're like, where they're talking, I think with Jim Shooter, like, we're not going to make a book pointing out everything we did wrong. And, that's exactly part of the book. So it's just very lighthearted, and I just wanted to have one for it. So, and now I do. let's get to that book that I mentioned at the beginning, that if I would have made a top 12 goal list, this book would have been on it. Let's show it right now. I have been wanting one of these for quite some time. This is one-shot DC Spotlight Volume 1, Issue 1. This came out in 1985. So I remember the 3 DC samplers that DC Comics did prior to that, which they gave out in comic book stores. And then I had no memory of this at all. And when I finally got the book, it really explained to me why I wasn't as familiar with this. This was a convention exclusive they gave out. They didn't give these out just at LCSs. You had to go to a convention to get one. I grew up in very small town Midwest. The thought of making it to a convention that would have had something like that. I mean, conventions weren't back then like they are now, and as popular or as many. And the only way you could get this was from the DC booth. They were celebrating their 50th anniversary. This is the first appearance of the Watchmen. So we've been covering the Watchmen in Fanboys Live and the Retro review. So if you've been missing that, catch up on our previous episodes. We do the show Sunday nights. It's the greatest DC Comics show on YouTube. Sunday nights, 8:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Central here on my YouTube channel with Signature King Tony Fett and Comic Food 2814. He's the one who picked the Watchmen. So that's the big key in this comic book, first Watchmen. It's also first mention of the Frank Miller Dark Knight series. So something that's really different as opposed to the DC samplers. The DC samplers felt like just a collection of one-page in-house trade ads for the most part. Sometimes they had a spread, like a 2-page trade ad. This is much more text written and not like in a traditional comic book style. This is like more written out, not like panels and inside of a comic book interior. That's another big change with this. So they do previews in here of Crisis on Infinite Earths, Who's Who, the DC Challenge, Hex, Legion of Superheroes, the New Teen Titans, Superpowers, the Omega Men, and then as I mentioned, Batman, the Dark Knight, and the Watchmen. So that's kind of what's collected in here. I was hoping there was some Wonder Woman, but she only appears on this awesome cover, and which, by the way, this Garcia Lopez awesome cover turns out to be a wraparound, which I have in my Comic Clear backing board. So I think the artwork for this is worth the price alone. Usually this book is a wall book, at least when I see it. And even in like a fine or fine plus condition, it's usually around the $50 mark, generally. I found one in much nicer condition online and ended up getting this with shipping in the $20 range. So I scored pretty well with this. If I remember correctly, too, I think I made an offer to the seller, and it got accepted, like right away. So I guess it was the right time for me to pick this up. And had I made a top 12 list, as I've said already, this book definitely would have been on it because it's one that I wanted for quite some time. And I guess just for the sheer fact that it was convention exclusive is why that it had eluded me in the past before, at least when I was an original collector. But that kind of wraps up my Oddities and Rarities video today for Comic Book Editions Volume 194. And as promised, what did you think about what I showed today? I'd love to know. Are you chasing any of these? Do you have any in your collection? How do you think I did? I want to dialogue about all of that and more in the comment section. Your comments are welcomed, encouraged, and appreciated. My back issue of the week YouTube short is up, 60 seconds, about a comic book back issue currently in my collection. Check that one out right now. I mentioned Fanboys Live in the Retro Review this upcoming Sunday. That's probably the next time I'll see you. And then again next week for another Comic Book Editions video. Thanks for making it to the end of today's video. Have a fantastic, healthy, successful week, and I look forward to visiting with you again soon. Take care. Why are these videos never easy to do anymore? We'll get it in this take. God, I hope so.